Hey everyone, you ever just sit back and think, what if? What if the world of One Piece we know and love was just a little different? What if Luffy had a brother who was way less like Ace and a whole lot more like one of the series' most terrifying legends? Well, that's exactly the rabbit hole we're going down today.
So here it is, the big question. What if our favorite freedom-loving rubbery boy Monkey D. Luffy shared his blood and his childhood with Rox D. xebec? You know, the guy who wanted to be king of the entire world? Are they going to become this unstoppable force together? Or are their destinies just going to crash, casting them as the world's greatest enemies? Let's find out.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off like all good pirate stories do on a tiny little island. We're on Dawn Island, and two brothers, Luffy and an older Rox, are being raised under the, let's call it character-building fist of their grandfather, Garp. But even from day one, you could just see these two were heading in completely opposite directions.
I mean, their core beliefs couldn't be more different. Luffy, well, he's the Luffy we know. He sees good in everyone. His whole dream is about adventure and making 100 friends. Rox, though, he looked at the world and saw a rotten, corrupt system that needed to be torn down root and stem. He just couldn't wrap his head around why you tolerate a threat when you could just get rid of it.
And that little crack between them, it completely shatters the day Shanks shows up. Yep, we're talking about the infamous Sea King incident. The moment Shanks gives Luffy that straw hat, the very moment that sets Luffy on his path, is also the moment that drives a permanent wedge between him and his brother. So, picture this. Shanks loses his arm, saving a terrified Luffy. But just moments later, Rock shows up and just brutally executes the Sea King. And this quote, this is his ice-cold take on the whole thing. For Luffy, it was this incredible moment of sacrifice and inspiration. For Rox, it was just a practical lesson. Mercy gets you hurt. And that's when he starts to see his little brother as dangerously naive.
So when the time finally came, you guessed it, they set sail. Different ships, different dreams, both pointed straight for the Grand Line. And as each brother started to gather a crew, those crews became a perfect mirror of their completely opposite worldviews.
And man, what a contrast. The Straw Hats, they're a family. They found each other, brought together by these wild dreams and this unbreakable loyalty to Luffy's vision of freedom. Rock's crew, on the other hand, they're an army. Every single member is carrying deep scars from the world's injustices, and they're not united by friendship. They're united by a white-hot desire to watch the system burn through sheer absolute power.
Of course, it was only a matter of time before their journeys nearly smashed right into each other, and that happens in the scorching deserts of Alabasta. Both brothers end up in the kingdom, facing the same enemy in Crocodile and Baroque works, but their reasons for being there couldn't have been more different.
It really all boils down to why they were there. Luffy fought a warlord to save his friend, Vivi. It was personal, plain, and simple. Rox, he shows up after Luffy's already won, but he's not there to celebrate. He methodically hunts down and eliminates every last agent of Baroque works. Why? Because in his mind, leaving any root of corruption alive just means it's going to grow back.
And this same pattern, this fundamental difference in how they operate, it just keeps showing up. Our next stop? Enies Lobby. When Luffy decides to directly challenge the entire world government, the shockwaves from that act spread across the globe, and right to Rox, solidifying his own much, much bigger plans.
You know, when Rox hears that his little brother declared war on the whole world for just one friend, for Robin, he actually smiles. He gets it. He understands that kind of fierce loyalty. But he also sees it for what it is, a small emotional gesture. For him, this is the final proof. To really change the world, you can't just defy it, you have to break it. And that's when he starts planning his own war.
All right, everything has been building to this. The one place they were absolutely bound to end up. Marineford. The execution of their brother, Ace, forces these two clashing ideologies to finally collide in the biggest battle the world has ever seen.
Okay, so Luffy crashes the party from Impel Down. Whitebeard's forces are clashing with the full might of the Marines. The battle is pure chaos. And then, just when you think it can't get any crazier, a new ship appears on the horizon. Rox D. xebec arrives, and with one single blast of Conqueror's Haki, he drops over 10,000 Marines where they stand, instantly turning a two-sided war into a three-way free-for-all.
And then it happens. While Rox immediately engages the biggest threat on the field, Admiral Sakazuki, Luffy manages to fight his way to Ace and free him. And for the first time, all three brothers stand shoulder to shoulder, an absolutely unstoppable force.
They fight in perfect sync, this terrifying mix of freedom, raw power, and fire that sends chills down the spines of the Marine High Command.
In the end, though, it's Whitebeard who makes the ultimate sacrifice, using his power to create an escape route for everyone. And with his dying breath, he entrusts the future to this new generation, because he knows that the combined will of these brothers is something the world has never, ever seen before.
So, in the chaotic aftermath of Marineford, a really tense compromise is made. The brothers realize that to take down the world government, they're going to need way more power. So they decide to do the unthinkable. Unite the four emperors under a single flag, using a strategy that's part Luffy's inspiration, part Rock's overwhelming force.
And their plan is just brutally effective. With Big Mom after Luffy takes down her strongest commander, Rock steps in with a very simple choice. Join us or watch as I dismantle your family piece by piece, the one thing you care about. She agrees. With Kaido, it's way more direct. Rock challenges him to a legendary 3-day duel and earns the Emperor's loyalty not with threats but with pure, undeniable strength. With two emperors now flying their flag, the time is finally right. The largest fleet in history sets sail for the Red Line, ready to start the final war, to pull the Celestial Dragons from their thrones and end their centuries of rule for good.
And this isn't just another battle. We are talking about the climax of an 800-year struggle. As this massive alliance smashes through the Marine defenses and climbs to the Holy Land of Mary Geoz, they're met by the Five Elders and the true ancient power that has secretly been pulling the strings all along.
And then we get the biggest lore drop of all time, straight from the true king of the world, Emu. The will of D, it's not just a myth. It's basically a genetic imperative, a curse, as Emu calls it, that forces anyone with that name to instinctively fight against oppression. Now, for Luffy, this means nothing. He just fights for his friends. But for Rox, this is a terrible, clarifying moment.
So, facing Emu's insane, reality-bending power, neither brother can win on their own. But here, in the final battle, they aren't alone. Reunited with Ace and Sabo, the four brothers, Luffy, Ace, Sabo, and Rox, unleash one last combined attack. It's this beautiful symphony of their ideals. Luffy's joyful freedom, Ace's burning fire, Sabo's revolutionary will, and Rox's crushing power, all focused into a single strike that shatters 800 years of immortal authority.
With the world's government gone, the world is finally free. But it's also in total chaos. And here, in this brand new dawn, the brothers enact their final, separate visions. Luffy, having achieved his dream of being the freest man alive, refuses any title. He just sails away, a legend who toppled gods and then wanted nothing more. But Rackus? He steps into that power vacuum. He creates a new world order, one based not on bloodlines, but on strength, to make sure corruption can never take root again.
And that leaves us with this final, massive question. One brother gave the world absolute freedom, and with it, the freedom to fall into total chaos. The other gave the world peace, but it was a peace enforced by an absolute strength that, let's be honest, some might call a new kind of tyranny. So in the end, whose dream actually created the better world? What do you think?